And the Archbishop of Canterbury has claimed that Prince Andrew is seeking to make amends after settling his sex abuse case out of court. Justin Welby told ITV News that the Duke of York is hoping for forgiveness from the public as he called for the UK to be a more open and forgiving society.
Prince Andrew, I think we all have to step back a bit. He's seeking to make amends, and I think that's a very good thing.
This is outrageous.
So, what do you think? Is the Archbishop of Canterbury right that we should forgive Prince Andrew? Controversial one, this. I'm fascinated in your thoughts. Dan at gbnews.uk. Tweet me at GBNews. We'll bring you the results of that poll shortly. But to help you make your mind up, I'm joined by top lawyer Rad Seeger and editor-in-chief of Majesty magazine, Ingrid Seward. So, Ingrid, you think in the spirit of forgiving, the spirit of this Platinum Jubilee, the Archbishop made a fair point?
Well, far be it from me to disagree with an Archbishop. I think he later said that he wasn't particularly meaning Prince Andrew, but he was.
So that he did name him, didn't he?
He was talking in the spirit of forgiveness, and I think I'm right in saying that the word Jubilee is about forgiveness somewhere way back in time, and I think what he was trying to say is we are a very unkind society, and we know that's probably because of social media. And he was thinking this is 70 years for the Queen, and let's just go gentle on her favourite son. I think that's what he meant in spirit, but he said it in such a way that it didn't sound like that at all.
Radzig, you are prepared to strongly disagree with the Archbishop, though, aren't you? You think the statement was totally wrong.
I think it's totally wrong and totally out of place. And I think we have to, as a society, look at this from the perspective of the victims. And I disagree with him fundamentally. I think we are a very forgiving society. We have one of the fairest legal systems in the world that has leniency at its heart. But the way to forgiveness, Dan, and I agree with the Archbishop in this respect, we should be forgiving. But the way to do that is to be held accountable. And let's bring this back to the facts. Andrew still stands accused of committing some serious acts of indecency on young women. He's wanted by the U.S. prosecuting authorities. He continues to evade them. We know for a fact that he's visited Jeffrey Epstein's island on at least 4 occasions. I personally have met several victims who have pointed the finger at Andrew. So, look, there is a path to redemption. But expecting us, the great British public, the intelligent British public, to just walk on by because it's the 70th anniversary of the Queen ascending to the throne is just not going to happen. And I find it offensive that people seem to be inviting us to do that just because it's the Jubilee.
Ingrid, isn't that a fair point? Because I feel like Prince Andrew had a golden opportunity to clear his name by taking the Virginia Giuffre case and going all the way and saying, no, I'll be able to prove that what you're saying is wrong. He bottled it. He settled. And as Rad says, that hasn't given us the opportunity to make a judgment. All we can see is that very dodgy Newsnight interview where you have to admit he didn't cover himself in glory.
He certainly didn't. And I have to agree with Rad. And I have to agree with you, Dan, I'm afraid, as well. But that, of course, Andrew hasn't settled the case. His family have settled for him in the way of providing the money to pay off Virginia Giuffre. But I don't think that Andrew's actually said anything about wanting to make redemption. But I think that if Andrew does anything at all, he's going to have to do it very, very subtly and very quietly. I don't think he's trying to come back into the royal family. I think he realises that is over.
Oh, I think he is. I think he's absolutely desperate to come back. Do you remember just after Prince Philip's death, he insisted on giving that on-camera statement. Then he was very much behind walking the Queen into Westminster Abbey at the event not so long ago. Rad, I think he absolutely believes that he should be back on the balcony.
Look, I think, when you don't stand up and answer the charges or the accusations, there's an awful stench that follows Andrew wherever it goes. And shoveling a huge wedge of cash under a negotiating table to try and buy off silence just isn't going to work. Ultimately, look, it's up to the Queen. But the moment I see Andrew on the telly, and I've been taking soundings locally where I live, and I know millions of people, I'm going to switch that telly off the moment I see them. And, there goes the goodwill that we all so, fondly hold for the monarchy. There is just an awful stench about this, Dan.
Ingrid, we are going to see him over the next few days, aren't we, at the service of Thanksgiving, I believe, on Friday morning. He will attend that, but he won't be on the balcony tomorrow, for example, at Trooping the Colour.
He won't be on the balcony tomorrow, and he won't be in the carriage procession. But I do feel, I think Rad's saying that, well, we allow the Queen to hold the arm of her favourite son. I think we are being a bit unkind to the Queen. And I think the royal family were behind the idea that, as Andrew had nothing to do, he could, look after his mum. And I think it was his father's service of remembrance. And I think it was quite right that he escorted her there. And, she feels comfortable with him. But the Queen, of course, is really, really sensitive to public opinion. And there was an outcry. There was a lot of people saying, how could this happen? And I don't think we will see very much of Andrew at all, because the Queen, as head of state, is sensitive to what her subjects feel.
Rad, I've been speaking to my royal sources over the past few weeks, and they're very clear on this. The Queen and senior members of the royal family believe Prince Andrew is innocent. In fact, these royal sources told me that they feel far more comfortable hanging out and being in the same room as Prince Andrew than they do Prince Harry and Meghan, because they don't believe that Prince Andrew has done anything wrong. They believe he is innocent.
And Dan, that's absolutely a fundamental principle in our country, that you're innocent until proven otherwise. The problem that we have here is not so much in the court of law, it's in the court of public opinion. But the way to answer charges, and you and I would do this if anybody accused us of this, would not go on Newsnight and give a car crash of an interview. It would be to get to court and be judged by your peers. That's the way we do things. We don't go on Newsnight to try and silence the public, and we don't run away from authorities when they want to question us.
And Ingrid, he was never prepared to do it, was he? He was never prepared to speak to the FBI.
He wasn't, but I presume Andrew isn't the brightest spark, and I presume he was doing exactly what his lawyers told him to do. And they probably never foresaw the weight of public opinion against him. And I think that's one of the things that has gone slightly awry here. But I do agree with you, Dan, and I've also heard the same as you, that the royal family, and especially the Queen, believes that he is innocent.
Yes.
And he could well be completely innocent. But what he's not innocent of is this sort of arrogance that he has. And I think that's what really gets people, is his sense of entitlement and his arrogance, that he didn't even sort of apologise to Giuffre and potentially the other girls. Well,
he didn't even apologise for his friendship with Epstein to begin with in the BBC interview. He said he didn't regret it, which felt completely unbelievable to me. But Rad, at the same time, there are two sides to this story, and I am prepared to hear from both sides. So Lady Victoria Harvey, a friend of Prince Andrew, has been on this show before, and she absolutely insists that she has proof that Virginia Giuffre is not telling the truth.
She succeeded in her claim against him. You don't hand over a wedge of cash if you're totally innocent. You and I wouldn't do it. We would want our day in court. And look, the path to redemption is to head to New York, speak to the authorities. It's not what your lawyers advise you to do. The man's an adult.
I agree with that.
And, whether he's intelligent or not, I can't comment on. But look, if we're talking about what the Archbishop said, which is being a forgiving society, I disagree with him. I think we are. But you have to be held accountable. And if accusations are made against you, there's a place to go and defend yourself. And that's either cooperating with the authorities or ultimately in court if necessary. Until that point, as I say, this awful smell is going to follow him forever and a day.
Ingrid, I guess the one counterpoint to that is that a lot of people think Prince Andrew settled the case for the sake of his mother's health. and reputation. Because remember, if this case had gone ahead, it would have potentially overshadowed somewhat these Platinum Jubilee celebrations. Do you think that's one reason why the Queen is so prepared to publicly stand by Andrew?
I absolutely agree with you, Dan. I think that Andrew was under a great deal of pressure from the other members of the family. Remember, he's out of the royal family.
Charles
now.
and William in particular, right?
Well, I think in particular it was his older brother Charles who said, Andrew, you might want your day in court, because he said he wanted his day in court.
He did.
You might want it, but it's going to be too damaging to the institution of the monarchy, and that's what we're all about. It's not about you or me or Princess Anne. It's about the institution of the monarchy, and that's what we've got to protect. And if it means you can't have your day in court, tough. You're just going to have to learn to live with it.
Fascinating conversation. Thank you so much. That's Royal Expert, Editor-in-Chief of Majesty Magazine. She's got a very busy few days ahead, Ingrid Seward, and top lawyer Rad Seeger.